Hello traders, and welcome to another exciting edition of our weekly Xauusd and Gbpusd trade analysis. Okay, so I'm excited to be here with you as we dive into the dynamic world of Forex trading. So in today's video, we'll be dissecting the price action for Xauusd and Gbpusd, identifying key and potential levels on the charts, and discussing potential strategies for the week ahead.
Okay guys, welcome back. So this is Gbpusd on the daily time frame. Remember, we always do a top-down analysis to ascertain and forecast what we'll be expecting for the next and coming week. So last week we marked out a few zones, of which I'm going to be highlighting on my screen. This is one of the zones we marked out. This is one of the zones we marked out. So we had a few upward movements for Gbpusd last week. So this week we are going to still be marking out a few zones that we're expecting Gbpusd to either respect, retest, or even break out from on the daily time frame. You can see on my screen, this is a very valid support zone right here on the daily time frame for Gbpusd. So for this week, we'll be expecting a few drops for Gbpusd. We'll be expecting, depending on the opening price on Monday, we'll be expecting a few drops for Gbpusd. We're expecting price, I'm just going to draw that out. We're expecting price to drop below this support zone right here to this support zone. So I'm just going to draw that out real quick. We're expecting price to drop from its current position to this support zone, or even below it, to the next support zone. But on the flip scenario, if price decides to continue upward, we're expecting it to either retest the resistance zone right here and continue downward, and if it breaks this resistance, we're expecting it to move upward to the next resistance zone on a daily time frame. So I'm just going to draw that. So guys, on the flip side scenario, like I said, we're expecting price to move to this resistance zone right here before continuing downward, or if it breaks through the resistance zone, we're expecting a retest on the daily time frame and before continuation to the upside. So guys, I'm just going to zoom in. Remember, we always do a top-down analysis, so I'm just going to be zooming down on the lower time frame so that we can get a better view of what we are looking out for. So let's move on to the 4 hours time frame. So this is the chart on Gbpusd. Remember, I said we are going to be getting a deeper view on the lower time frame of what the chart looks like. You can see with me that we have other key zones that were not visible on the daily time frame that are now visible on the 4 hours time frame right here. So guys, you can see that price has respected this support zone for a while right here. I'm just going to scoot back so we can see before breaking out right here. So price broke out of the support zone right here before retesting. So we'll be expecting a few drops on Gbpusd on the 4 hours time frame, like not very different from what we expect on the daily time frame. So I'm just going to be marking out a few zones which are very visible here. So on the 4 hours time frame, we're expecting price to come back to retest this resistance zone before continuing downward. So I'm just going to draw that out real quick, guys. We're expecting price to move upward to this resistance zone, to retest this resistance zone before dropping to the next support zone, or even below the support zone to the next very valid support zone. So we're expecting to be a retest of the resistance zone and then a drop to the next support zone. But if price decides to break this support zone, we expect it to retest the support zone and then continue to the next support, guys. But on the flip scenario, remember we always do a flip scenario. On the flip scenario, depending on the opening price, if price decides to continue upward, we're expecting price to break through the current resistance to the next resistance and even to the upper resistance, guys. So I'm just going to draw that out real quick. We're expecting price to move upwards to this resistance zone right here. This is a very valid resistance zone on the 4 hours time frame. So we're expecting price to move to this resistance zone, and if price decides to break the resistance zone, we're expecting price to move to the next resistance zone, which is above it. So guys, let's move over to the 1 hour time frame to see some key zones that we still need to look out for For GBPUSD on the 1 hour time frame, it's not very different from what we expect on the 4 hours time frame. So we'll be expecting a retest of this resistance zone right here. We're expecting a retest of the resistance zone before a drop to the downside. So I'm just going to draw that out real quick. Okay guys, so we're expecting price to move upwards to retest the resistance zone above before a drop on the 1 hour time frame. But on the flip scenario, if price decides to continue upward, we're going to expect price to break through this resistance zone right here. Remember, this is a very valid resistance zone on the 1 hour time frame. So we'll be expecting price to break through the resistance zone right here to the next resistance zone above. I'll still draw that real quick so we don't get confused, guys. We're expecting price to break through the resistance zone, give us a retest for confirmation of entry, and then move over to the next resistance zone above. Remember, that's on the flip scenario, but generally GBPUSD looks very bearish. It looks like it's going to be trending downward for next week depending on the opening price, so we should be looking out for more selling opportunities. So guys, we're expecting price to move from its current position to the next support zone. But on the flip scenario, if it decides to continue upward depending on the opening price on Monday, we're going to be expecting price to break through or retest the resistance zone up above, or if it breaks through it, we're expecting it to move to the next resistance zone above. So guys, that's all for GBPUSD. We are going to be moving on to XAUUSD. This is XAUUSD gold on the 4 hours time frame, guys. So right here, as you can see on my screen, this is a very valid support zone that XAUUSD has been respecting for a while. As you can see, I respected it right here. It has also respected it here and here. So on XAUUSD on the 4 hour time frame, we'll be expecting movement to the upside. I'm just going to be marking out a few zones that we're expecting XAUUSD to respect or even break out from, on the 4 hours time frame. So for XAU, we'll be expecting movement to the upside to the next resistance zone, of which I'm going to be marking out right here. This is one of the resistance zone. Just change the colors real quick so we don't get really confused, So these are a few resistance zones that we're expecting XAUUSD to either retest or even break out from for next week, depending on the opening price of the market on Monday. So we're expecting a few movement to the upside for XAUUSD. So I'll just draw that real quick. We're expecting price to move from its current zone right here to respect the resistance zone right here before dropping, or possibly break out of the resistance zone to respect the next one above it. I'll come again with that. We're expecting price to move upwards from its current position to respect the next resistance zone, which we marked out right here, or even break out of that resistance zone to respect the resistance zone above. But on the flip side, if price decides to move downward, that is, if price decides to be bearish depending on the opening price on Monday, we're expecting price to break the current support zone, give us a retest, and then continue downward. So I'll just draw that also. We're expecting price to move downward from its current position, give us a retest of the very valid support zone, and then continue downward, guys. So we're just going to move over to the 1 hour time frame so we can get a better look of what the chart looks like. Okay, so guys, this is the 1 hour time frame on XAUUSD gold. So it's not very different from what we were expecting on the 4 hours time frame. I'm just going to be taking this off so we don't get confused with the chart. So as you can see, the marked out resistance zone are very visible. They are key zones on the 1 hour time frame. As you can see, this was a double top right here. Price retested the zone and then went down and came back to retest it before dropping massively to the support zone which we marked out. So we are still expecting price to move upward to retest the resistance zone right here before dropping, or if possibly break out of that resistance zone to the next resistance zone for next week before any drops. On the flip scenario, if price decides to continue downward, we are expecting it to break out of this support zone. I'm just going to extend this We're expecting price to break out of the support zone, give us a retest for confirmation before a drop. So guys, I'll drop that real quick so don't get very confused. So the 1 hour time frame, we're expecting price to move upward from its current position. Move upward from its current position to retest this resistance zone before a drop. But if this price decides to break through that resistance zone, we're expecting it to give us a retest and then move over to the next resistance zone just above. But on the flip side, if price decides to continue downward, guys, remember I always do a flip side scenario depending on the opening price on Monday. If price decides to continue downward, we're expecting price to break out of the support zone, the current support zone, give us a retest and then continuation to the downside. So guys, that will be all for XAUSD on a daily time frame. So generally for XAUSD, we're expecting a few movement to the upside to retest the resistance zone before it drop. But price, remember, if price decides to break through the support zone, we're expecting a retest before continuation to the downside. Okay guys, thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode of our weekly forecast. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and also turn on the notification so as to get notified whenever we post our weekly forecast. And also guys, please don't forget to join us on our weekly webinars which are hosted every Wednesdays. You can check through the description of this video to get the link to our Telegram channel. Please don't miss out on the webinars. It's always educative, always captivating, and we share insights on forex trading as a whole. Please join us. Much love from 15xFX. See you next week, same time, same station. GM guys.